woman angrily overturned a table of food. Then she slapped her father-in-law hard. When her husband tried to step in and stop her, she threw him over her shoulder and slammed him to the ground. The reason she dared to be so brazen was that both her husband and father-in-law were habitual abusers. On the very first day she set foot in this house, they couldn't wait to assert their dominance over her. The father-in-law even committed domestic violence against her mother-in-law right in front of her. Little did they know that all of this was their own downfall, because the woman was not only a top-tier lawyer, but also a 5-time national Sanda champion. She dedicated herself to punishing abusive men and seeking justice for women. If her target fled into a car, she would immediately yank the door open. Then, she would hurl the car door 500 meters away. If the abuser hid in the passenger seat, she would lift the entire car and smash it to the ground. Due to her aggressive nature, she had no boyfriend. Her aunt introduced her to a man for matchmaking, hoping that marriage would help her experience family warmth and soften her temperament. The man was immediately satisfied upon seeing her. This so-called philanthropist appeared gentle and considerate on the surface, but behind the scenes, he was engaged in shady dealings. Worse yet, he was a privileged playboy and a violent abuser. His ex-wife had been beaten to death by him. This woman was deceived by this man's appearance and planning to marry him the next day. Meanwhile, the man's family was already scheming to turn her into their obedient servant. Having just received a marriage license, the man insisted on taking her home immediately, because all the household maids had been beaten away. He's going to put the woman in the maid's place. As soon as she stepped into the yard, she noticed bodyguards stationed everywhere, both in the front and back courtyards. She couldn't help but feel curious. It wasn't until the last remaining maid accidentally bumped into her that she sensed something was wrong. Terrified, the maid immediately dropped to her knees and begged for mercy. The man hastily lied, claiming that the maid's husband had abused her for years, causing her to develop severe depression. The woman believed him without question, but the moment they left, the maid was knocked unconscious by the bodyguards. When the woman finally met her in-laws, her father-in-law asked her to demonstrate her cooking skills in the kitchen. Meanwhile, he invited the extended family over as guests, and instructed her to prepare additional dishes. The long-suffering mother-in-law, fearing that the new daughter-in-law would be punished for failing, hurried to the kitchen to help, but the woman noticed the bruises on her mother-in-law's arm. The mother-in-law explained that she had fallen on her own, claiming it had nothing to do with her husband or son. The woman didn't question further, and soon, she prepared a lavish meal. However, just as the dishes were served, the relatives began criticizing her, complaining that 10 dishes were far from enough to satisfy them. They demanded 10 more. They also scolded her for being an ignorant daughter-in-law, who didn't even understand the family rules. When the mother-in-law spoke up in her defense, the eunuch ordered her to kneel down and be punished by the house rules. The daughter-in-law tried to intervene, but her husband grabbed her arm, warning her not to meddle. In this household, anyone who made a mistake would be punished, even his own mother. But the woman was unfazed. She immediately rushed forward and took control. Without hesitation, she slapped her father-in-law hard across the face. He was utterly dumbfounded as to why this newlywed daughter-in-law was so fierce. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of their worst nightmare.